Hi dolls, Jemima here and welcome back to my channel. Today I have filmed a very super full coverage, a nice glowy flawless base which is matte but you kind of fake it with the glow, and it's kind of more centred for if you're oily skin, but if you don't have oily skin you can always kind of change it up by just not putting as much powder on. If you like what you see here then please keep watching. Bye dolls! This is Nancy. Say hello. That's Mum, stop talking to me. Mum's like fancy pants Nans. Take her then. So firstly I'm going to go in with the Clinique Pep Start Hydro Blur Moisturiser. I use this one because it helps to blur out any imperfections in the skin as well as kind of help mattify me throughout the day. So I'm just gonna pop that all over. This is kind of like the last thing that I do from my skincare routine. So let me just wipe that in. Around, minding my eyes and my eyebrows. So I've done my eyes and eyebrows off of camera just so that this video is heavily base orientated. Like that. So secondly I'm going to go in with my primer and I'm using the NYX Angel Veil. This is an oil-free primer. It's always nice to use something that's oil-free if you're oily, of course. It's just a really nice feeling primer. If you see me looking off of camera it's because I have a camera woman and her name is Madeline and she's helping me out. Say hello. Say hello. Come on, I don't want it to look like I've not got anyone here.
Just waiting for a mate.
Yeah. She is here. So once kind of like the base is done for it, I'm just going to take my MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NW15 and NC20, just mixed together. I never really just use one foundation to be honest. I always use a couple just because I like the finish of some and I like the coverage of others. This is a little bit warm for me, but it's because I'm actually never this colour, so I don't really own a foundation that is this colour. The last 2 weeks I've been super pale and I'm not really living for it to be honest. So I'm just going to use my Morphe Y7 brush and everything will be linked below, but I'm just going to use this to blend it all over down my neck because I don't want it to be too much of an obvious transition. It's actually not too much of a bad colour to be honest. And blend it in around my eyebrows. This brush I do find is a massive help. Beforehand I used to use kind of like a sponge or like a stippling brush. But my foundation never really fully looked that nice, but with this actually I really like it. Yeah, so this brush is so lovely. I just feel like it helps to really put it into the skin, like press it into the skin and make it look a little bit more lifelike, a little bit more skin-like rather than kind of like plastered on, because it's inevitable that it's going to look a bit fake, but the kind of key is to try and make it look as least fake as possible. And then with whatever's left on the back of my hand, I'm just going to kind of pop that in the extra areas. So I kind of find that I get a slight bit of redness on the uppers of my cheeks and my nose never really takes product, which is ever so slightly annoying. So I'm just going to kind of like pat that in rather than drag it. My nose I find quite difficult. I'm going to use like a sponge just to kind of press that in just ever so slightly. Like so, and always blend. Even if my foundation's my perfect match actually, I always blend it down my neck. I just feel like it gives like a nicer finish. And just going to do this. Just using a sponge just to kind of go over the rest of my skin and just to pat it in. I'm not really a fan of beauty blenders or anything to be honest. This just came with a Tom Ford powder. Okay, Okay, and now for concealer. I always use concealer under my eyes just because I feel like I need the brightening underneath my eyes. And I'm taking the Tarte Shape Tape and just blending that. I actually do all of this every single day. I know that for some people this might be kind of more of a on like an occasion or something, but I work in beauty and makeup and things, so I always kind of have to be looking fully glam. I'll just blend that in with the same sponge. And just tap that in and dab it. And I'm just going to blend that down just so that it meets. So the rest I always do it in like a triangle because I feel like it helps to elongate the face. So I'm going to go in with the Estee Lauder Perfectionist Set and Highlight Powder Duo in the shade Translucent, and I'm just going to use this to set underneath my eye, and it's a really nice like shimmery. People would probably use this for a highlight, but I like to just set my under eyes with it just because I think it gives me that nice glowy look to the skin. And then I'm going to take, to set the rest of my face, I'm going to take my Chanel Teint Ultra Tenue compact in beige, and this is a full coverage powder, so I'm just going to use that to dab it into my skin because I'm oily. You don't want to drag. Also, if you pat, it helps to keep the foundation looking as full coverage as possible. Like so. Kind of focus it where you most need it, so I need mine mostly around my nose area and in my forehead. But say if you have just oily, just like an oily T-zone, you can just always just mattify your T-zone but just keep your cheeks without any powder, but I do get it oily throughout the day. I'm then going to go on with a bronzer, and the bronzer that I'm going to use first is a matte bronzer. This is just to kind of help warm up my skin first, and then I go on with a shimmery bronzer just to kind of add back that glow. I always used to be all about the matte bronzers, but now coming up to summer and spring I'm thinking like I want to switch things up a little bit. So I'm just going to take that. Also, if you hear any noises or anything, my dogs are just right outside the door. So I'm just going to start by warming up my cheekbones. I don't really contour or anything. I just use just like an angled brush. Got this brush off eBay literally years ago, and I love it. I've always continued to use it. I mean, the other brush is completely disintegrated. Just using the same brush, don't use like a smaller one or anything, just kind of warm up the face a little bit. And then I'm going to go in with the Bobbi Brown Illuminating Bronzer Powder in Aruba. I love this bronzer so much, it's so beautiful, just gives you a nice healthy glow, and it's nothing too kind of in your face. And I'm quite bronzer heavy, I like to have a nice warm complexion. Okay. And then, to top off that, I'm going to use blusher, and I'm going to use Modern Mandarin by MAC. This is like one of my favourite blushes ever. It's such a beautiful like orangey colour. Love it. It's what kind of made me start liking blusher. I'd never liked blusher before this, and I literally use the same brush, and I just start to kind of brush that on, and I use the draping method for myself, just because I don't like to just have blusher on mine apples on my cheeks. I like to just swift it up. just to give me that little bit of an extra lift. And then do the same on the other side. I just love it. It just gives a nice added bit of colour to the cheeks without being too in your face. And then to top it off, I'm going to go in with a highlighter, which is my favourite part. I live for highlighting. So it's kind of one of the products where every time I have to come to highlighting, I've got so many that I'm like, what do I go for? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of like a new thing that I've been doing. I'm going to take the Liquid Glow by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and you'd kind of think like, oh god, using a liquid over the top of powder, but actually if you do it right, it's really, really lovely. And I just take one of the sponges that I used earlier and just dab it on to the cheekbone and just pat that into the skin. No dragging because you've used the powder, so you don't want it to move what's underneath. And I always put it onto the top part above my eyebrow and just make sure that it's all seamless. Like so, and then go over to do it on the other side. And so secondly, I'm going to take the Master Chrome Metallic Highlighter by Maybelline in the shade Molten Gold, and I'm just going to pop that all over where I put the liquid illuminator on a Real Techniques B02 brush. And this is just going to give it just that extra bit of a gold dimension, and I just love to be really glowy. So I'm just going to highlight extra on top. Just living for that glow, to be honest. And just going to pop a little bit on the tops of my Cupid's bow just to enlarge my lips. And then I'm going to take a smaller brush and pop that down the bridge of my nose. My glamorous assistant's just going to pass me the brush that I need. Yeah. It's my big break. Thank you, Matty. Hands on the show. Hi, Mum! And I'm going to take the Real Techniques B04 brush with the same highlighter, and I'm just going to pop that down the bridge of my nose in the same exclamation point. I really like this highlighter. It's only not really used it all that much, to be honest. It's quite pretty. Fabulous. So because I've used so much powder on my face, I am going to use some of the MAC Prep and Prime Fix Plus just to help to melt it all in my face again. I'm just going to give myself a couple of spritz, bathe in it, and then just let that kind of dry on my face. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go off camera, finish off my eyes and my lips, and then I'll be right back. And there we have it, dolls, my finished look. It's my super glowy, my super full coverage and flawless foundation and base. If you like what you see, then please like, comment and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. And yes, I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, dolls.